Hello, and welcome to my take, and welcome to my episode 3 review of season 2 of House of the Dragon. If you want to catch up on the first two videos in this series, then the links to which will be on your screen now and in the description below. Without further ado, let's begin. And as the title of this video suggests, spoilers ahead. Now, what another great episode! Honestly, every week I tune in expecting there to be some slower and less significant episodes, and every week I'm surprised as to how the quality can remain so high so consistently. I do sincerely love Game of Thrones, the first 4 seasons especially. However, I personally found that certain episodes were stronger than others in that show. This is quite natural in a TV story due to its extended runtime, especially when a story is trying to set up multiple plot lines and flesh out an entire fictional world. House of the Dragon, however, seems to be pulling off the impossible, which is having amazing episodes every week. We're 3 episodes deep now into season 2, and none of them have even missed a beat. They remain highly engaging throughout, and that's a real credit to the writers of this show. Firstly, as I kept mentioning in my first 2 videos in this series, it's been teased by the showrunners that Daemon, in particular, is going to really be explored in this season's writing, testing the character in new ways that we haven't yet seen, and I think this was the first episode when we start to witness this. His dream sequence seems to be the start of this, by showing us that he seems to feel far more guilt for the murder of Prince Jaehaerys than he initially let on. I thought it was also cool to have Millie Alcock's younger rendition of Rhaenyra pop up in this moment too, as it symbolises the innocence of the younger Rhaenyra, an innocence of which he stole from her in episode 4 of series 1. This detail then seems to reveal that he not only feels guilt over his murder scheme, but also what he's done to Rhaenyra, which means Daemon is questioning all of his main decisions that he's made over the show so far. That particular scene also generates an awful lot of ambiguity over how and why this dream sequence occurred for him. The scene starts in his chambers, and he seems to wake up from this dream by a weirwood tree. Now, these trees in the world of Westeros are sacred in the religion of the old gods. They're almost like a shrine for that religion. So, with this in mind, there seems to be some sort of religious or perhaps even magical undertone that's leading Daemon to experience these dreams. That's only further enhanced by the mysterious woman who warns him that he won't survive Harrenhal. I haven't read Fire and Blood, hence why I don't know who she is or what will happen next. This is because personally, with the brilliance and unpredictability of George R.R. Martin's writing, I personally prefer to see his stories on screen first before reading them. So I'm excited to see where this plotline will go next, especially as I know nothing about where it will, and it's one that certainly has me very intrigued. Daemon is such a fantastic character, he's a real wild card, and that makes him so engaging to watch on screen, as you never really know what he might do next. So when you add in some spiritual or psychological elements to this, his potential to be fascinating is only exacerbated, so I'm excited to see where this plot thread goes next. The other big moment this episode was the scene between Rhaenyra and Alicent. That was another really cleverly set up moment, as throughout the previous episodes we see Alicent visit the Sept of Baelor to light candles. So Mysaria and Rhaenyra's plan makes a lot of sense. That was also a really well done scene. I like how long it took for the moment when Rhaenyra figures out exactly what happened on the night of Viserys' death, only for her to realise and tell Alicent of the mistake that she's made. Olivia Cook's performance was particularly strong in this moment, and the scene as a whole actually. We see her conflicted emotions about seeing Rhaenyra again, and her insistence that she's telling the truth to Rhaenyra, and how much it hurts her that Rhaenyra isn't believing her. And then finally, towards the end of the scene, after all is made clear to her by Rhaenyra that Viserys that night wasn't referring to Aegon II, but instead to Aegon the Conqueror, we see her horror and conflicting emotions when she realizes that she was wrong. It's clear that she loved Viserys, so the idea that she's misinterpreted his wishes would likely horrify her, and seemingly does. However, Alicent seems to recognise that it's now too late for things to change course from the path of war that has already begun. So it'd be fascinating to see how this revelation changes her character going forwards, and how that will affect the plot. Likewise for Rhaenyra, there's an element of catharsis she achieves from finally knowing the truth of the night of her father's death. However, Alicent's unwillingness to cooperate with her means she likely understands now that a war is inevitable. So far, Rhaenyra has done her best to avoid starting a war, but that may well change now that she can see Alicent is not prepared to change course. As always, the episode was shot beautifully. The scenes with Daemon creeping around Harrenhal were especially good for this. I love the sound of the rain landing on his helmet too. It's a tiny little detail, but it really added to the believability and atmosphere of that moment. Likewise, the scenes with Sir Criston and the troops leaving King's Landing felt very momentous and grand as they should. Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon have always done scale very well. The world feels so grand and large, whether it be the fields of tents and soldiers or armies of the dead bursting through fences, especially if so much of these shows are shot with as much real-life practical filmmaking, extras, and sets as possible. It really adds to the cinematic language that makes Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon very distinctive from other fantasy shows. The score by Ramin Djawadi once again was excellent and fits the tone of this world so well. The score in the final moments of this episode was another standout for me. He makes such excellent music for this show, and given how so many of the episodes end with some sort of cliffhanger, his music really adds to those moments as the credits start to roll. Overall, then, another very strong episode from an excellent series so far. It's such a well-written and well-made show from every department involved in its making. So what do you think of this week's episode? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more House of the Dragon content over the coming weeks. Thank you.